welcome to Breezin with Bierman, the podcast under the Princetonian Now media umbrella. As always, our aim is to educate, inform, entertain, and tell you what's trending. And if you like what you hear today and other things, please check us out on Apple, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, various platforms we're constructing even as we speak. Today's guest is a 30-year-old first-generation Croatian American. He is a PhD in immunology at Yale. We can mention, even though we're in Princeton, we can mention that school in New Haven. He's a cybersecurity expert. He's active in local politics, a fundraiser, an opera singer. I've gone on YouTube. The man has lungs. And what is trending? He's currently running for the New Jersey Assembly 16th District. Let's welcome Chris Fistonich. Did I get your name right this time?
Fistonich.
Fistonich, I'm sorry. Okay, let's get right to it, Chris. And we can back up and get bio as we go. Why you? Why now for the 16th Assembly?
I think it's time for a new generation of leadership. I think we need someone young and vibrant and someone who has the energy to carry through on progressive policy goals. I think there's no other candidate running right now who has the bold vision that I do that's going to deliver on day one in the New Jersey Assembly.
Well, that's good. How would you deliver on day one from infrastructure, safety, vaccines, COVID-19, which you have a specialty in?
Yes, I think if I'm elected on day one, I'm going to have legislation ready to go, ready to be filed. Looking at the vaccine specifically, there's been a lot of worry and concerns about distribution of the vaccine and how some communities aren't getting an equitable supply of that vaccine compared
and how safe it is. Safety too.
Absolutely. And thinking about safety, a lot of people had some questions because this is a relatively new type of vaccine and people are right to have some questions about its safety. But as an immunologist who's been studying and following this for longer than most people have, all the research points that this vaccine is incredibly safe. Usually what a vaccine will do is give you a weakened form of the virus. They take the regular virus, they modify it in ways that makes it not harmful to you, and it lets your immune system train on it like it's a training dummy. This one is a little bit different. Instead of giving you a weakened virus, it's giving you the blueprints to make a tiny little piece of the virus. And it's training your immune system to fight that little piece of the virus. So if the real virus ever comes along, it's going to recognize that little piece and take care of it before it can do any damage. So overall, all the reports are saying it's great, it's safe, and I highly recommend getting it as soon as you're physically able.
Wow. So you would tell your parents that, friends, loved ones, no problem, go for it.
Absolutely.
That's going to be very important too for New Jersey to get back to work. You're also an expert, and again, we've had seminars on this in the Princeton Democratic Municipal Committee about cyber hacking. What is the threat? How real is it? Are we sitting ducks? Ransomware?
I would say that some of our municipalities are extremely vulnerable, and we're seeing nationwide what are called ransomware attacks, where some type of intruder will encrypt all of the data on a computer or on a network, and they will only unencrypt it if you pay a ransom of somewhere upwards of millions of dollars. So municipalities and hospitals and utilities, we saw this in Jersey City back in December 2020. They were the victim of this type of attack. And I would say far, far too many municipalities and utilities are not prepared for this level of cyber attack. And these can be domestic in origin, they can be foreign in origin. And once you've been hit by these, it's too late to prepare. We need to have proactive approaches to ensure that these attacks can't even get off the ground, that they're mitigated before they can do any damage. And it's about protecting data in a hospital setting. It's about protecting patient data. For a municipality, it's about protecting all the core services related to the municipality, or for a utility that deals with electricity or sewer or water purification. There's a lot at stake, and the people launching these attacks are getting more aggressive by the day.
This is scary, and it's true. And it's going to. I know some communities have been held ransom and have had ransomware. They're paying money they can ill afford to pay. In the Ukraine. Getting to the nuts and bolts of your campaign. How's it going? What is your strategy? If you want to, don't forget the walls have ears. Your opponents. You do have two opponents now, maybe more. But do you have a scheme, a strategy, a kind of voter you're looking at?
Yes, I'm looking at every single voter. I think that a targeted approach is not going to work here, because in these off-year elections, turnout can be so low that oftentimes the difference between winning and losing could be just a small handful of votes. So we're not targeting specific types of voters, because we think this is the time to bring out people who don't typically vote in these types of elections. I think young voters are looking for passion. They're looking for a reason to come out to vote for these low turnout elections. And I think that's what we're going to do. We're targeting everyone by targeting no one. So we're on the ground already. We're reaching out to voters. The response has been overwhelming. I've been absolutely blown away. And we're going to carry this all the way to the finish line.
You feel confident. That leads us to voices from the crowd. Chris, love your beard. This is, again, love your beard. You're 30 years old. You have a wife, no kids. Do you really have the time to knock on all these doors? I mean, time, family, tension. What's happening with that?
Yes, and my wife's been extremely supportive of my candidacy ever since I told her about my plans to run. There's never been a challenge I've shied away from in my life, whether that's doing my PhD, whether that's working in cybersecurity for the last 10 years, whether it's working at the local level in politics, whether it's fundraising for candidates at the local, state, and national level. I've never had a challenge that I've turned down, and I've always when I put my mind to a task, I get it done, and this is no exception.
So you're saying you're results oriented, period.
Precisely.
Another question, cannabis. You've mentioned that before, and I looked on. A friend of mine says, I want to get my stupid low-level cannabis offense expunged. And what's going on with this torturous, he said, his words, this torturous route with the cannabis legislation? It's still not been passed. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's high time that the legislature gets itself in gear and passes a bill that not only will generate revenue for the state, but will also expunge all past possession charges. I think that the legislature has been sitting on its hands for far too long. There's no reason that the voters needed to vote on a ballot initiative to approve cannabis legalization. We have strong Democratic majorities in both chambers of the legislature. This is something that should have been done years ago.
Another question, and again, we just throw this out to you. I'm not saying you have the definitive answers. Chris, you're 30 years old. You're entering a snake pit of New Jersey politics, patronage, and bossism. How are you going to make a difference? How are you going to persuade people? It's a very general question.
I'm going to persuade people with my passion and with my bold ideas and bold vision. I'm not going into politics to be a politician. I'm going into politics to serve working class people and small business owners and all of the most vulnerable in our town, those who are falling through the cracks on all the policies that need to be implemented, what I think better. So I think that people seem to sort of respect this drive that I have, because I'm not going into this as an elected official. Every other candidate in this race is going into this as someone who's already been elected to another position. And I want to go into this not using this as a stepping stone to some other elected position. If I'm elected to something at the local or state level, I want to stay there and make sure I get the job done before I even think about considering some other kind of office. So if the voters choose to trust me with this election to the assembly, I'm not going to be using this as a springboard. I'm going to be using this as a way to accomplish goals, to drive my vision, and to make real progress. And I think it's high time for that.
You have the ability to listen and understand. I always said politics, especially at the state level, it's a lot of policy, a lot of process, but a lot of politics. So you have a learning curve, obviously, don't you? You know, you're learning about New Jersey politics as we speak and the personalities involved.
Of course, and I think that's par for the course, and that's something I'll be wholeheartedly prepared for. I'm not worried about that, because I think when I start bringing legislation to the table, it's going to start speaking for itself, and it's legislation with broad appeal across the political spectrum, because it's not there as a political tool. It's there as a tool to help our working class and our most vulnerable.
Final question, voices from the crowd. It's from a Croat who's been here, though, for 70 years via Chicago to Princeton and everything. Being an immigrant, and I guess what your parents left in the 90s, I'm assuming, and in the 80s from the former Yugoslavia, did that even make you more sensitive to the plight of oppressed people and chaos, anarchy, and civil wars?
Yes, absolutely. My parents came to this country in the late 70s and early 80s, and they were coming to find a better life. And no one can blame someone for doing that, because they wanted to have a family and they wanted to raise a family in a place that could give them the opportunities that they couldn't have. And I feel like I've grabbed that by the horns and done everything possible to accomplish things that they never could. I'm extremely sensitive to our immigrant communities and all of their contributions to our economies and to our culture. And those communities are absolutely a focus of mine, and groups of people I will be continuing in contact with to hear about their needs and what they need from our state.
You certainly, to me, have what I call immigrant eyes. You see possibilities and you're grasping. Okay, any way people can reach you, your Facebook, whatever social media, phone numbers you want to give, and give yourself a plug.
Check us out, chrisfornj.com, or you can check us out on Facebook at chrisfornj, on Twitter as at Chris Fistonich. I think we're building a movement here. I think people are being inspired by my story and by this chance to elect someone who's going to be a real fighter and who's caring about issues that matter to real people and real struggling people right now. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. We still have affordability issues in the state. We still have climate change gnawing on our back door. There's so many issues that we need to fight yesterday. And since we didn't fight them adequately yesterday, we need to fight them adequately today. And that's what I'm going to do.
Well, good luck in the future, Chris Fistonich, and thanks for coming on Breezin with Bierman, the podcast. And hopefully we'll talk to you in the future. And if you get elected, hey, come back on. Oh, you don't have to get elected, but good luck. Good luck.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.